first off, raising successful young men, it starts when they are very young boys. Now, in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24, notice what it says. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes, which means early. Okay? Now, why does the Bible specify spanking early? Now, I hope you all get this, okay? Let's just think about this. Let's use a little bit of common sense. All right, let's use some common sense. Let's use what the Bible says. The Bible says to spank him early, right? Now, why do we spank him early? Why shouldn't we just reason with our young boys? Okay, well, try reasoning with the 2-year-old, okay? We see Zeke running around right now. He's not even a year old running around. He's trying to dive down the stairs. I mean, at that age, they're trying to kill themselves all the time. Okay, it's a challenging age. Okay, Brother Chris is not going to sit down with Zeke and just like, all right, Zeke, here's why you can't run around the stairs. You can fall down. You can break your neck. You'd have to go to the hospital. Zeke's just going to look at him. He's going to take off running. But you know what? One thing that they can learn, they understand pain at a young age. They understand that deep voice. And here's the thing too with little kids, you barely have to spank them. Okay? With Kelly, I can be playing with her. I can just pat her on the rear a little bit and she's fine. But if I say no and pat her on the rear the same way, she has a meltdown. She has an absolute meltdown, like I just beat the daylights out of her. And the truth is, spanking, now get this. Spanking is for them when they're young. Now, don't ask me, at what age can I stop spanking my kids? Okay? Y'all know how I am about this kind of stuff. I'm not about to give you an age when you can stop spanking, okay? But let me show you a few things about spanking. Notice one of the purposes of spanking. It says in Proverbs 22:15, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. The reason you're spanking your child is because you're trying to drive the foolishness out of him. It's foolish for kids to just go running off steps and falling down steps and running out in traffic and doing all the dumb things the little kids try to do, and spanking helps drive that out of them. Okay? And so you're trying to get rid of that foolishness. Now, here's the thing. In the Bible, we see some examples of some pretty extreme punishment, and you know who it's mentioned for? It's mentioned for fools. Okay, look what it says in Proverbs 26, verse 3. It says, a whip for the horse, a bridle for the ass, and a rod for the fool's back. Okay? Now, we obviously do not believe in spanking our kids with a rod in the back. Okay? That is not spanking. But yet, did they not beat people with rods, often as a punishment? Who was it? It was the fool. Okay? It was the fool that they would beat with the rod. See, proper spanking, it should serve its purpose before they become a young adult. Okay? Now, this is going to, once again, it's going to vary from individual to individual. Spanking your adult is only necessary if you've raised a fool. Okay? Now, you might have a fool in the home, and you know what? Fools need beat. But the thing is, the older they get, the worse that beating's going to have to be. I don't really want to be leaving stripes, and I don't want to really be taking a rod to the back of my son. And I'm thankful I've never needed to do that. But listen, blueness and stripes are for the fools. I often hear people use this one for spanking. In Proverbs 20:30, the blueness of a wound cleanseth away evil, so do stripes the inward parts of the belly. And people use that for kids. You got to make them black and blue, all that kind of stuff, because blueness of the wound. Well, what about the stripes there? Are we supposed to leave stripes on them too? Who are the stripes for? Well, Proverbs 10:13 says, the lips of him that hath understanding, wisdom is found, but a rod is for the back of him that is void of understanding. Deuteronomy 25:1. We read this verse this morning. If there be any controversy between men and they come into judgment, that the judges may judge them, and they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and be beaten before his face, according to his fault by a certain number. 40 stripes he may give him, and not exceed, lest if he should exceed and beat him above these with many stripes, then thy brother should seem vile unto thee. This is not talking about kids. This is talking about men here. Young men who are fools. They would leave stripes. This was a form of punishment that the government administered on people. Proverbs 17:10 says, a reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. If you've spanked your children at a young age and you've driven that foolishness from them, you know what you can give them when they're older? You can give them a reproof. Sometimes you need to give them a good old-fashioned chewing out. Sometimes you need to give them a long, boring, emotional, preaching session to them. They hate that. Okay? But if they're wise, that will be more effective than 100 stripes into a fool. You see, stripes, they are not meant to necessarily fix people as much as they are to just punish people for the wrongdoing. Often the stripes they would leave, it wasn't so much to fix them, but it was to warn the simple ones. Let's go beat the fool so the simple will see it and beware. They weren't doing that so they could help the fool out. Okay? And there are men out there who are fools. And today we don't beat them, but what we do? We throw them in jail. Now, what's worse? I'd personally rather get a few stripes than go to jail. Now, that would just be me. At least I can still work, provide for my family, be with my family, all that kind of stuff. But it's pretty sad when a grown man can't behave himself. It's pretty sad when a grown man isn't willing to go out, get a job, do the things he's supposed to do, take care of his family. When you've got to bring a man out and you've got to lay stripes on him, we have a sad, sorry individual. And is that who you've got in your home? Do you have a bunch of dumb fools? Are the young men in your home a bunch of fools that you got to beat like fools? Plus, I want to beat it out of them when they're young. And the Bible says it'll drive it far from them. And by the time they're young adults, it's going to be different. If your 15, your 16-year-old is acting like a fool, spank him like a fool. Spank. If he's going to act like he's 2 years old, spank him like he's 2 years old. Well, that's humiliating. Well, he should be humiliated. Do you think that was not humiliating when they'd be taken out in the town square? They'd bare their back and they'd whip them like that? You better believe that was humiliating. What are they trying to do? They're trying to teach a fool a lesson. And if you need to spank your teenager, go ahead and spank your teenager. I'm not saying you can't do it, but we'll just remember when you're spanking that teenager, you got to be asking yourself, where did I go wrong? Why do I have a fool in my house? And you better get serious about it. You better figure out what's wrong and deal with it.